Okay, so I think we're going to start. So we're going to really just go back to our beginnings on a whole chicken. And the beautiful thing about a butterflied chicken, a flattened chicken, is that you get more skin coverage on the top. And so you get much crispier, you get more skin, which becomes crispy. It cooks quicker. It cooks so much quicker because the whole thing is flattened, so it has more surface area to cook. It presents, I think, it looks much nicer, and you can get more marinade, and it's easier to carve. It's much easier to cut the chook up straight up. Okay, we've gone on Facebook, so that's exciting. So I'm going to show you from the very beginning for our young viewers how to clean a chicken, how to flatten the chicken. We're going to talk about marinades. We're going to talk about roasting versus barbecuing. We're going to look at a few different marinades. I'm always trying to think of new ideas and new marinades, so hopefully I'll be able to inspire you there. And then we're going to look at styling ideas. People always ask me, you know, how to make the food look better. And for 30 years, I was a food stylist. And so it really is a couple of simple tricks of the trade that will make your food look so much better. Okay, so let us begin. We're looking at a whole chicken. We're going to start with our marinade. So you all have the recipes. They would have been emailed to you. If you've only registered late, you will find the recipes on the website, and we also will post them in the chat room this morning, so you will see the links and you'll have the recipes. So the marinades the recipes I've provided you is the peri-peri chicken, which is a great one. It's chilies, garlic, paprika, coriander, basil, olive oil, lemon juice, and salt. And it's a great one to have on hand. Today I'm going to be doing a Mediterranean one, which has got yogurt, olive oil, garlic, lemons, fresh oregano, homegrown oregano, and basically you mix everything together. I also do a great Asian one. I use ketchup mayonnaise. If you don't know ketchup mayonnaise, we call it the ABC sauce. ABC sauce you can buy in any Chinese supermarket. Sesame oil is the absolute secret ingredient to any Chinese marinade. It gives it an incredible depth of flavour. So the Asian marinade has garlic, ginger, the ketchup mayonnaise, the sesame oil. I use orange juice. You really need to feel the confidence that you can add anything into a marinade. Okay, so straight up with the marinade this morning. The yogurt, I'm dairy free, so I use a coconut yogurt. So the coconut yogurt in the bowl. We're going to add to that some olive oil. And the recipe calls for 1/3 of a cup of the yogurt and 3 tablespoons of olive oil. To that, I'm going to add some garlic. The recipe calls for 2 cloves of garlic. Here's a little trick with garlic, is when you have a clove of garlic, one of my favourite tools is the microplane, is I leave the skin on the garlic. I start at the point, at the base, at the tip of the garlic. Okay, that's the top of the clove. And with the microplane, I use the skin as a protection for my fingers so I don't go to bed smelling of garlic when I, put my fingers close to the head. And what this does is it gives you a lovely protection, and it doesn't really pick it up in the microplane. And then I can show you that's where all the meat is. Once you cut through the skin, microplanes are absolutely fabulous. Yes, you can use a garlic presser. I just find they're just so hard to clean. Look at that. So everything is captured there. Just give that tap, and that goes into the marinade. We're going to add, and the biggest tip is clean up as you go along. It's really important to rinse everything and clean up as you move along, because then at the end you don't have a lot to clean up. So as soon as I've got the garlic on my microplane, I rinse it. I always keep a little bowl or a container in my sink with water, so you don't need to run the tap all the time. Cleaning up as you're going along is really one of the key factors to running a kitchen really well. Okay, so the lemon. Shopping for lemons, it's always nice to find the smoother skin. If you want to make it a bit more juicy, give it a roll on the board. And cutting the lemon in half. Love my lemon press. And the lemon juice, let's see what you can see. Juice of 1 lemon. These are huge lemons, which are really, really lovely. Juice of a lemon into the marinade. And for me, cooking is all about using everything you have. So once I have juiced my lemon, so much lemon, which is wonderful. Once I've juiced, I then, I'm very well known, to then cut my lemon into pieces. I cut it into 6. And these wedges of lemon, I add to my marinade. I use everything in my cooking. If I was to do the Asia one and I use oranges, I would do the same thing. So you cut up the skin, add that to the marinade. And then also, to the marinade, we're going to add salt. I always have, you can see here my 3 little bowls. My 3 little bowls stay on my bench, so I always have access to salt, cracked pepper, chili flakes. If you're cooking for kids, obviously not the chili flakes. And I don't think I've missed anything. And we want some oregano in the marinade. So this is the marinade. You don't need to use yogurt. Questions, remember, you can put your questions in the chat bubble. Look how beautiful this homegrown oregano is. Beautiful. Yes, you don't need to use yogurt. You don't need to use coconut yogurt. It's just something different, which is really lovely, which is what I wanted to show you. You can just use your olive oil and your lemon juice. Okay, so our marinade is ready. We're going to move that to the side, then we're going to look at our chicken. So, chicken, in the old days, our chicken always had a number on it. It had 17 or it had 20. And a 17 was a 1.7 kilo chicken. A 20 chicken was a 2 kilo chicken. These days, you'll see on chickens small, medium, or large. And really, you just need to look at the weight. Remember, for example, this chicken here weighs 2 kilos. It weighs 2 kilos. Remember that 1/3 of a whole chicken is bones. So when you're always calculating, it's a very old-fashioned thing, the amount of meat that we're serving is normally 200 grams per person. So if you're unsure of how much meat you should be cooking for entertaining or whatever, you base it off 200 grams of meat per person, because then you also remember you're having entree or a soup, and then you're serving salads and, you know, rice or whatever it is. So you don't need excessive amount of meat. So the chicken, you know, to buy from a chicken shop is always a preference. I just happened to be in the supermarket, so I bought a supermarket chicken. What I wanted to let you know is that I'm not going to cut it up on my board. The most important thing when you're working with a chicken is that any raw meat, you need to be very careful, because you don't know whether it has salmonella, and even if it does, you kill it in the cooking. So wherever you put the raw chicken, you need to make sure you're cleaning up afterwards. Sitting it onto a bench top, sitting it onto a plate, it won't absorb anything. When you sit raw meat onto a wooden chopping board, it is porous, so you really need to clean that well. For the whole chicken, and really I'm doing this for our early learners. How to recognise, remember there's always that little padded thing that comes inside a pre-packaged chicken. How to recognise a chicken when you're cutting it in half, because sometimes it can get a little confusing. So this is the breast of the chicken. You can see the line down the middle. If you turn it over, this is the backbone, okay, where it isn't as smooth, and this is where we are cutting. So you can see in this pre-packaged chicken that the wings are already tucked in. If I turn the chicken around, you'll see here is a wing. If you happen to have a chicken where the wing is out, you lift up the little end of the wing and you pull it behind and you tuck it in behind. This saves the little bones from burning. Okay, so if they're sort of hanging out like that, you lift it up into the air and turn it back inside itself, and that's how you tuck the wings in. So remember, this is the breast. You put the breast side down, and then what we are going to do with a sharp, you can use chicken, you can use shears, just to show you old-fashioned chicken shears. You can use that. I find just a serrated knife works just as well. So remember the backbone, it's full of bones. So instead of trying to cut straight down the middle of the backbone, the trick is to go to one side of the backbone, where you can cut down much easier. So we've just moved to one side of the backbone, and I can show you here, there is the backbone down here, and here is the other side. You want to crack it open. Now there's chicken fat, which we have at the bottom here, and I'm going to remove the fat. The chicken fat sits right down the bottom towards the legs. There's not a lot of fat in this chicken, but the chicken fat is valuable for a little trick I'm going to show you. So once you've removed, there's a little bit of fat. Once you've removed the chicken fat, keep it to the side. Then what I want you to do under running water, cold running water, is just to give it a little clean. And you want to remove any organs that are there in the chicken. What you need to do, I'm going to bring the chicken closer just to show you, inside the cage, inside the ribs of the chicken, is an area, it looks like nothing is there until you stick your finger in there and you can see the livers coming out. And that's the part of the chicken that you need to clean, that often people don't clean. And when you're entertaining, you know, you might, for those that like the bones, you find a couple of organs sitting there. So it's good to get it in there and clean that out. Okay, so there we have our whole chicken, which has been butterflied. There's a little bit of chicken fat up by the neck. So this is my first little trick I want to show you. This is the head, this is the top of the chicken. You can see the breast here. With the chicken fat that I've removed from the inside, I'm going to lift the skin around the breast, and very gently I'm going to open up the skin so to get a gap between the skin and the breast. And I'm going to put the chicken fat inside there. I quite often find the breast dries out in the cooking. So to get the fat, which is down the bottom of the chicken, and pop it in under the skin by the breast, keeps the breast just that little bit more moist. Okay, remember when you're cooking with chicken, anything raw, you need to keep your hands clean all the time, whatever you're going to touch. That is really important. Okay, so then we're going to place the chicken into the marinade. I'm going to put it the skin side down. Get the marinade with the lemons. Let me show you what that looks like. And really coat it all over. Now, anything marinated, chicken, meat, fish, it's always so much nicer when it's been marinated at least overnight. That's important. What I often do is when I buy my chicken fresh, I bring it home, I marinate it, and then I freeze it and label it. So it's important to know, one, what is the marinade, but by the time it goes into the freezer, it needs a couple of hours before it's frozen. And then when you thaw it the night before, it's a couple of more hours. So the chicken has been marinating for, you know, more than overnight, and the flavors are so much richer, and it really does save you a lot of time in the end. So marinating it either overnight, yes, a few hours if you sort of decide to do a chicken last minute, but I like to freeze it. And to freeze it, try and avoid using freezer bags. Use a Tupperware that fits a flattened chicken, or a container that also sort of works well in your freezer is a good idea. So freezer should be your friend when you are marinating, because it really is so much more flavoursome in the chicken. Okay, so we're going to let that rest. What I want to talk about is if we were to now roast it. Remember, there are so many different options and variables when you're roasting chicken. So for example, if I was to roast it in a ceramic dish, like this dish, the ceramic does get hot, so that will slightly reduce the cooking time. If I was to roast the chicken on a big enamel baking sheet that fits into my oven, because there's so much more space, the chicken will maybe not take as long to cook, but it will dry out. So when I go to put this chicken into this baking dish to bake it, I put it skin side up. I place the marinade all around it. Remember, there's garlic in the marinade, and I also like to include remember to rinse as you go along. Everything can be rinsed. So then at the end, all you have to do is a super quick wash and you're done. I like to add, you can see our lovely chicken there with the lemon, is beautiful. I love to add a whole knob of garlic. So I'm going to cut the garlic in half through the center, just like that, and keep the skin on and just place it into the baking dish. And that will roast as part of the roast, which is beautiful at the other end. It's super sweet and so delicious. So that can marinate, that can go into the oven. I want to talk about, so that dish was quite small, which means it will create a lot of liquid. If you have a larger baking dish, you will need to add some liquid into that baking dish. The more space you have available, you will need to add some water so it doesn't burn. It's always good to check your chicken along the way, depending on your oven temperature, depending if you're using fan force. All those variables make a big difference. The smaller the baking dish, the less water you'll need. A larger baking dish, you'll need to add some water. If you're cooking it on a barbecue, you do the same thing. You marinate it, you get the barbie hot, and you always place skin side down first onto the barbecue on quite a hot barbecue, a medium to hot temperature. You leave it there to sear for about 10 minutes, then you turn the barbecue down to a medium low, and then you turn the bird over so the bones sit there. Make sure the lid is closed. I learnt this many years ago. I had a barbie that didn't even have a lid. Closing the lid keeps it moist, still gives you a delicious crunch. When I'm entertaining, quite often I'll do the first part on the barbecue to get that really lovely smoky feel, that smoky sort of flavour, and then I will turn it over and put it into my oven to finish it off. Lots of different variables that you can work with along the way. Just remember, I can see questions popping up, which I'm going to get to in a minute. So we are going to pull out our chicken. Okay, that was a quick bake. Here we have beautiful marinated cooked chicken. You can see the garlic, you can see the lemons gone crunchy. So now I want to show you serving up. I'm going to see some questions just to see. Such good tips. Thank you very much. Why avoid freezer bags? Freezer bags are bad for the environment, and especially if you have chicken in them, are you going to wash them and reuse them? It's so important to be thinking about reusing, recycling. You know, I'm promoting a lot at the moment. Everyone needs to have a worm farm. Instead of putting all your food scraps in the garbage, really, even in an apartment block, you know, just get someone who has in the garden to have a big barrel that everyone can put their food scraps in. Makes a huge difference. Oven temp for fan force. So a lot of recipes will say 200 degrees. I find that's too hot. I do 180. And this chicken takes about an hour and a half. If you're entertaining, you can cook it and then you can carve it up, place it onto your serving dish and put it back into the oven, keep it covered, and just to warm it through is also a great idea. So you only cut down one side. That's exactly right, Karen. A lot of recipes will show you to cut down both sides of the backbone and remove the backbone, but there's always someone that loves to eat. Oh, I can feel the warmth of the chicken. There's always someone that loves the bones, and if not, you give it to the neighbour's dog. I mean, it's a shame to throw it away. Remember when you're cooking a whole chicken that the bones also provide heat. So if you're just cooking fillets, the thigh fillets will cook differently if you don't have a bone. So the bone heats up. If you were to, let's compare a chicken thigh fillet and then let's compare a chicken Marinade, which is the thigh and the leg. That will heat up quicker because the bone will get hotter and that will cook quicker than just the meat itself. How long in the oven? It takes a good hour and a half. You'll see that on the recipe, but again, that will depend on your oven. I do like to use fan force because it gives the air, the fan force gives a slightly crisper skin. You don't really need to worry about the oven temperature because you can tell when a chicken is cooked, and there's two ways to have a look at that, which I'll tell you. How long can you freeze marinated chicken? For months, Paula, for absolutely months and months. Always remember to label it, and you should date it, even just to put March 2020 or something. I would say in a freezer, I'd say 3 to 6 months. And I would always take it out and thaw it the night. You need to be a little bit organised. I would pull it out the night before, put it into the fridge and let it thaw slowly. Let me just have a look here. Yeah, fan force, you are meant to drop the temperature 20 degrees, but that's not always necessary. I don't remove the backbone K. Website for my recipe is miacucina.com.au, MIACUCINA. Okay, so the chicken. We have a serving bowl. Yes, you can serve the whole chicken flattened, which looks amazing. And if that's the case, really all you need to do is just to garnish it. I want to show you how to carve the chicken today because that is important. I want you to know that the joints of a chicken are like this. That's exactly what the joints of the chicken look like. So there's no point in cutting through the bone here and someone having a piece of bone in their meal. What you want to do is to be able to break through these joints and just separate the meat. So the first thing we look at is you can see me there, is the drumstick. So here is, look at that meat. That's delicious. Can you see how lovely and tender that is? So the thigh and the drumstick can be served together or you can separate it. If you want to separate it, you look at the bone of the drumstick, which goes straight across, and that's where you insert your knife. It's hard to show you in the video, but straight through. If you can see there, it went straight through and then it's separated. So that's already 2 pieces of meat. Then I do the same on the other side. That's the Maryland. And then if I can try and show you, let me hold it like this so I can show you. It's almost falling apart on its own. And that's one very good sign that your chicken is cooked, that it does fall off the bone like that. The other very good test to know if your chicken is cooked, especially if you're barbecuing, because sometimes the skin can be darker and you're unsure whether the meat is cooked, is when you prick it with a fork or the knife, the juices need to run clear. So if the juices sort of run pink, the meat is not cooked. It's only when the juices run clear. Okay, so here I have the backbone section, which really has some lovely crunchy skin. I like to put that on the platter down the bottom, which gives some extra height to my dish when I'm building it up. no one needs to eat it, but I promise you there's always someone there that loves the bones. I will come back to your questions. Okay, so the chicken wing, if you can see here the chicken wing, you actually can cut into the shoulder. You can cut straight down. You don't really need to cut through any bones. You just want to remove it off the backbone section. Look, there's the neck. Honestly, you use every part of the chicken. Asians have been using every part of the chicken for centuries, and it's super important to be not wasting any food these days. Okay, so you want to find the joint. I found the joint. There's my wing. I didn't cut through any bone. I just sort of wiggle it around, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. You cut through. If you look at the breast, you go into the breast a little bit, and that's how you remove the wing. And again, I didn't cut through any bones. And there is the wing that goes onto the platter. Now with the chicken breast, I like to cut the chicken breast in half. There is, in the breast, you sort of go to one side of the bone or the other. That's cut in half. And then I like to cut the breast in half again. And you will need to cut through a little bit of the backbone for that. So that goes onto the platter. The beauty about serving a whole chicken and displaying it really to make it look attractive is to build it up in the middle and to give it lots of height. Okay, so there we have, I'm now going to add the lemon skin, which is delicious. I'm also going to, there's lots of lovely sauce here. I'm going to add the garlic as decoration on the top. Can you see how delicious that garlic is? Amazing, absolutely. It pops out beautifully and is super sweet. I'm going to add a little sauce boat, a little bowl on the side. I'm going to add the sauce in there because everyone loves some delicious marinade. And then I'm going to drizzle the rest over the chicken. There's a little breast sitting there. And to the chicken, can you see how delicious this is looking here? Let me just show you. You can see the garlic. Oh, it smells so good. To the dish, we're going to sprinkle some fresh oregano leaves, homegrown oregano leaves. Looks pretty. You can see that I've built up a lot of height. I'm going to take a photo of this and we're going to share it with you so you can look how pretty. Okay, so let me show you. Look how great that looks. Oops. Really delicious. So remember styling when you're presenting to give it lots of height. Really looks wonderful on a platter. The other thing that makes a beautiful dish is beautiful serving ware. And we are fortunate to have Michael Aram, some serving cutlery, which always makes a dish look beautiful. You always need to, when you've got a lovely sauce and marinade, to have a spoon. And I think this is the best present ever. Gorgeous wedding present, beautiful gift, some magnificent handmade cutlery, some servers on the side which look great. So that is how you flatten a chicken. I want to mention, I'm going to get to the questions. I want to let you know that we're always keen to have your feedback. So at the end of the workshop, we will be emailing you, and we'd love your feedback on today and what other workshops you're interested in. My focus is really on skill-based workshops. Next week, we're in conversation with Delia and Ronit from Better Together, two Melbourne girls that publish these wonderful, healthy cookbooks. And I'd love your support and to join us next week. I am going to taste some of this chicken now. Let us have a little bit of this. It is super moist. It really is. This was an hour and a half in the oven. I add chili flakes to everything. The skin is crunchy. The meat is so tender. Delicious, so moist. And the coconut yogurt gives it a little bit of a creamy sort of texture, which is delicious. Such a good recipe. And, you know, it's always good to not cook the same thing every week and to mix that up and to change it. So I really hope you enjoy those marinades. Okay, let me get back to those questions. So it does look yummy, Estelle. It is absolutely delicious. Marinade recipes, Jeanette, are on the website. How long can you freeze the chicken? We've done that recipe. Yes, so the marinades, they can be made ahead of time. When you're entertaining, try and do as much ahead of time as possible, because it really, the flavours will intensify and increase. So even to have the marinade in a jar the day before, have the chicken, then buy the chicken, and every stage makes a big difference. Okay, so I think I've really spoken about everything. It's super important to clean up as you go along. I can't stress that enough. Leftovers. Once we have finished with a chicken, and normally a whole chicken, depending on its size, can feed 4 to 6 people, depending on what else you're serving. It breaks my heart to see when people throw away leftover food. So I always find it's much easier with the leftover chicken straight away that evening or after the dinner or meal, is to take all the meat off the bone. It's still warm, take the meat off. I shred up all the meat. I put it into an airtight container. I add all the marinade and all the juices. So the next day you can turn that into chicken sandwiches. You can add it onto a chicken salad. I find that if I put all the chicken with the bones in a container in the fridge, the kids won't touch it, the kids won't look at it. But if the whole thing has already been shredded, and it's much easier to shred it when it's at room temperature rather than it's cold. So, you know, I know a lot of people do, but it's important to really use everything that you do have. Okay, any more questions? Do you cover it in the oven while cooking? No, you don't, Sharon. Always leave, you cover the barbecue, but you don't cover your chicken when you're putting it into the oven, because you want it to get that lovely golden crispy skin. Chicken is very versatile in the oven, that you can reheat it, especially if it has a marinade. And remember your timings. The chicken can sit there, you know, all meats can sit there and they do stay warm. You can cover it once it comes out of the oven, that's when you can cover it just to keep it warm. Chicken doesn't need to be served boiling hot. Yes, please, use all your chicken. And the bones are wonderful, and really that's where the best flavors are. Okay, so I think that's all of our questions. I hope you like my new kitchen that I've been just packing and unpacking boxes for the last few weeks. And thank you everyone for joining us this morning. I'd love to see you next Thursday with our In Conversation with the girls from Melbourne, Better Together. And you will be receiving an email from us, and any feedback would be wonderful. Any other questions, you can, if you think of something afterwards. Thank you everyone. Thanks for coming along this morning. See you next time.